What if the stars held a secret so powerful, so paradigm-shattering, that for centuries, the most dominant forces in the Western world conspired to erase it from our memory? Not merely to dismiss it as superstition, but to actively ban it, to burn its books, and to punish those who dared to read the celestial scripture written in the sky. This isn't a flight of fancy. It is a forgotten chapter of our own history. We have been led to believe that astrology was cast aside by the cold, hard light of reason. But what if the truth is far more complex and far more unsettling? What if this ancient art was deemed a threat, not because it was false, but because of the profound truth it revealed about the nature of reality, and more importantly, about the nature of you? This journey we are about to embark upon is not a simple history lesson. It is an excavation. Together, we will dig beneath the foundations of modern thought, brushing away the dust of dogma and persecution to uncover a forbidden wisdom. We will travel back to a time when the planets were not seen as mere balls of rock and gas, but as living intelligences, as the arbiters of destiny and the keepers of cosmic law. We will explore why the rising powers in Europe feared this celestial language, and what they stood to gain by rendering humanity deaf to its symphony. Prepare to question what you have been told. Prepare to rediscover a power that was stolen from you, a birthright encoded in the stars. For in understanding why astrology was banned, we begin to understand the true potential it holds to liberate the human spirit, even now, in this very moment. To understand the crime, we must first understand the world in which it was committed. Long before the sterile silence of deep space replaced the music of the spheres, humanity lived within a breathing cosmos. The universe was not a cold, indifferent void sprinkled with burning gas and rock. It was a single, unified, living being. The ancient philosophers called it the anima mundi, the world soul. Every star, every planet, every mountain, river, and human soul was a cell within this immense divine body, interconnected by a web of sympathy and correspondence that was both invisible and absolute. This was not a primitive belief. It was the sophisticated philosophical bedrock of civilizations, from the sands of Egypt to the schools of Athens. In this world, astrology was not a parlor game. It was a sacred science, a form of spiritual astronomy. Masters of this art, like the great Claudius Ptolemy, were not mere fortune tellers. They were interpreters of the divine will, reading the intricate language of the cosmos as it unfolded. His seminal work, the Tetrabiblos, was for over 1,000 years considered the essential text for understanding the relationship between the heavens and mortal life. It taught that the planets and stars were not causes of events, but divine signs. They were the hands on a cosmic clock, revealing the quality of a moment, the pattern woven into the fabric of time at the instant of a soul's first breath. This was the principle of as above, so below, the cornerstone of Hermetic wisdom. To study the stars was to study the mind of God. To understand your own horoscope was to possess a map of your soul's journey, a guide to its innate potentials and challenges written in the heavens themselves. This worldview, the great chain of being, saw all of creation as a shimmering ladder extending from the Godhead down to the most humble stone. Every celestial body had its terrestrial echo, the sun in gold, the moon in silver, Mars in iron. The macrocosm of the heavens was perfectly mirrored in the microcosm of the human body. This was a universe of profound order, meaning, and enchantment. But this enchantment, this belief in a direct, personal connection to the divine intelligence of the cosmos, held within it a seed of rebellion. It suggested that a person could find truth and guidance, not just from a priest or a king, but from the firmament itself. It implied that authority was not merely terrestrial, but celestial, and that any soul with the knowledge to look up could access it. And as a new, centralized power began to rise in Europe, this idea would transform from a sacred truth into a dangerous heresy. The war against astrology was not fought on the battlefield of science. Okay? It was a war for the human soul, waged in a realm of philosophy and faith. The central charge, the one that echoed through the halls of councils and the pages of papal bulls, was the crime of determinism, to the rising orthodoxy of the Church. The idea that one's life was indelibly shaped by the configuration of the heavens at birth was an intolerable affront to the doctrine of free will. If your path was already written in a celestial script, what room was left for a moral choice? How could a soul be judged for its sins or rewarded for its piety if its inclinations were merely the result of Saturn's position or the influence of Mars? This was the exoteric argument, the one presented to the public. It painted a picture of a compassionate church freeing humanity from the shackles of a fatalistic cosmos. But the esoteric reality, the truth hidden behind the theological curtain, was about power. It was a battle between two models of spiritual authority. The Church was meticulously constructing a grand edifice of salvation, one in which it was the sole intermediary between God and humankind. Grace, forgiveness, and divine knowledge were dispensed through its sacraments, its priests, its sacred texts. It was a centralized, top-down system. Astrology, however, presented a radically different model, a decentralized personal gnosis. Proposed that the divine did not only speak through a single book or a single institution, but that it spoke constantly through the living language of the cosmos. Your birth chart was not a prison sentence. It was a divine conversation, a personal revelation gifted to you directly from the source of creation. It was your own unique key to understanding the cosmic energies you were meant to master. Think of it this way. The established church offered a grand, ornate cathedral and promised that only within its walls could one hear the voice of God. To hear it, you needed the priest to interpret the scripture. Astrology, in contrast, taught that your own body was a temple, and that by looking up at the sky and inward at your soul, you could hear that same divine voice without any intermediary. This was the ultimate threat. It was spiritual sovereignty. Church fathers like the influential Augustine of Hippo, who in his youth had been a follower of these arts, became their most formidable opponents. He argued that any truth astrology might reveal could not be from God, for God had given humanity free will. Therefore, its predictive power must be the work of deceiving spirits, of demons who used the stars as a stage for their cosmic puppet show to lead souls astray. In one masterful stroke of theological maneuvering, the celestial intelligences of the ancient world were recast as demonic entities, and the sacred science was rebranded as infernal divination. The stars had not changed, but the story told about them was being rewritten to serve a new master. After the theologians had branded astrology a demonic heresy, a new force arose to deliver the killing blow, the very engine of reason itself. The scientific revolution, while gifting us with invaluable technologies and a new understanding of physical law, completed the process of cosmic disenchantment that the Church had begun. The living, breathing anima mundi was pronounced dead. In its place was a magnificent, yet soulless machina, great cosmic clockwork, wound up by a distant watchmaker god who had long since abandoned his creation to its mechanical fate. The planets, once seen as archangels or archetypal forces, were demoted to mere objects, hurtling through a vacuum, bound by gravity and nothing more. The poetry of the cosmos was replaced by the prose of physics. This shift was more than just an intellectual evolution. It was a fundamental alteration of human consciousness. The astrological worldview was one of participation. It taught that we are in the cosmos, and the cosmos is in us. The new scientific paradigm was one of observation, placed humanity as a separate, isolated observer, peering at a universe that was fundamentally other. This created a profound spiritual alienation. If the universe is just a dead machine, then our lives, our consciousness, our deep feelings of meaning and purpose are nothing but random accidents, ghosts in the machine. This worldview, while empowering us to manipulate the material world, severed our connection to its soul. It created a spiritual vacuum, a deep sense of cosmic loneliness that haunts the modern psyche to this day. There was also a deeply practical, political reason for the ban, one that rulers understood with cold clarity. It was the fear of sedition. Throughout history, mundane astrology, the branch dealing with nations and kings, was a double-edged sword. A monarch might secretly consult an astrologer to gauge the most auspicious time for a battle, but they lived in mortal fear of that same astrologer predicting their demise or the rise of a challenger. A prophecy of a king's fall in the hands of the public or a rival is not merely a prediction. It is a spark that can ignite a rebellion. It grants a kind of celestial legitimacy to treason. By outlawing judicial astrology, the authorities seized control of the future. They ensured that the only sanctioned narrative of what was to come was the one they wrote themselves. They silenced the stars to better amplify their own decrees, ensuring that destiny, at least in the public mind, flowed from the throne and the altar, not from the heavens. The ban was an act of cosmic censorship, an attempt to monopolize the very concept of fate. Understanding why this wisdom was suppressed is only the first step. The second and more powerful step is to reclaim it. To reclaim astrology is not to succumb to a belief in an unchangeable fate. It is to reclaim a powerful tool for self-realization, a language that allows your soul to speak to you about its own design. It is about shifting from a passive subject of destiny to an active co-creator with the cosmos. This is not about fortune-telling. It is about soul mapping. Cand, your personal map. The key to this forbidden knowledge is your natal chart. Your first practical step is to cast this chart. With your precise time, date, and place of birth, you can use countless resources online to generate this sacred diagram. Key, do not be intimidated by its complexity. See it not as a data sheet, but as a seed. This seed contains the full potential of the tree you are meant to become. To begin, focus on the three great lights of your personal cosmos: your sun sign, your moon sign, and your ascendant. Your sun is the hero of your story, your core identity, your will, your purpose. Your moon is your hidden, inner, ocean, your emotional needs, your subconscious patterns, your source of comfort. And your ascendant, or rising sign, is the doorway through which you enter the world. It is your mask, your persona, the energetic signature you present to others. Meditate on these three pillars of your being. Journal about how their archetypal energies manifest in your life. This is a foundational act of spiritual astronomy, knowing thyself. Once you have a sense of your own cosmic blueprint, you can learn to work with the present moment. This is done by observing the transits, the ongoing movements of the planets in the sky. Think of the transiting planets as the current cosmic weather. So, just as you would check the forecast before setting sail, you can look to the sky to understand the energetic tides. When expansive Jupiter aspects your sun, it is a time for growth and opportunity. When stern Saturn challenges your moon, it is a time for emotional maturity, for facing old fears. This is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about understanding the nature of the lesson being presented. Kate, it allows you to work with the currents of time rather than being thrashed about by them. You learn when to plant, when to reap, when to mend your nets, and when to set sail for distant shores. This is the art of celestial timing, of living in harmony with the symphony of the spheres. It is the practical magic of transforming fate into destiny, one conscious choice at a time. We have journeyed back through the centuries and seen that the marginalization of astrology was no mere accident of history. It was a conscious act of severance, a theological war against personal gnosis, a political maneuver to control the future, and a philosophical shift that traded a living cosmos for a dead machine. The powers that arose in Europe did not simply disagree with astrology, They feared its core implication, that every human soul has a direct, unmediated connection to the divine intelligence of the universe, They feared that if we knew we had a map to our own soul, we might no longer need their guidance to find our way, The greatest secret that was hidden was not in the stars, but within ourselves. To reclaim this ancient art today is therefore a radical act. It is an act of reenchantment. It is a declaration that you refuse to live in a silent, meaningless universe. It is a choice to once again see the cosmos not as a collection of objects, but as a tapestry of meaning, and to see your own life as a vital thread within it. The techniques are not about surrendering your will, but about empowering it with a deeper understanding of the energetic currents you are navigating. It is about learning the language of your own soul. So, the next time you stand beneath the immensity of the night sky, do not see it as an empty void. See it as a mirror. See the shimmering constellations and wandering planets as the external reflection of the archetypal forces that live and breathe within you. The call to action is simple, yet profound. Begin the conversation. Ask the question: what forgotten wisdom, what dormant power, what part of your own sacred story is waiting to be remembered in that celestial reflection? The stars do not compel you. They invite you. And the greatest truth, the one they tried so hard to make us forget, is that the map of the entire cosmos is, and has always been, hidden within you. Dare to look. Dare to remember.